ADHD and perfectionism, what a combo. And I am trying to overcome my perfectionism right now by filming this video. So all the best to me. Tea with ADHD. My name is Ruse. I have a medical degree, I have a biomedical sciences degree, and I have ADHD. In this video, we're going to be talking about the causes of perfectionism in ADHD and ways to overcome it. Okay, so why don't we typically think about ADHD and perfectionism going hand in hand? Well, ADHD, you naturally associate it with disorganization, making errors, missing things, and general chaos. And to be honest, research does talk about there being differences in levels of neurotransmitters, that's chemicals in the brain, such as dopamine and noradrenaline, or differences in the way that they work. And research does also point to differences in the development and the structure of the brain, which do correlate with the behaviours that you see in ADHD typically. So that stereotype is a stereotype which is rooted in truth, and a lot of ADHDers like myself can relate to. And then we have perfectionism, and perfectionism essentially is crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, if you know that phrase, trying to get things done perfectly and to the highest possible standard. Perfectionism and ADHD may not seem like they go hand in hand, but I can really attest that they do, and can lead to problems such as ADHD paralysis, where you just cannot start your work even though you want to, even though you know you need to, because you're thinking, I need to get this done perfectly. Okay, so in my opinion, the number one cause of perfectionism in ADHD is overcompensation. Many ADHDers grow up receiving a higher level of criticism for their work or what they do than people who are neurotypical, i.e. people who don't have ADHD or another condition that affects you cognitively. This is because people with ADHD naturally do make more mistakes, so therefore they are more likely to attract critique for those mistakes. And after a while, that can impact one's self-esteem and cause anxiety and worry about what people will say. So many ADHDers might take it into their own hands and overcompensate. This can take the form of checking your work so that you can be sure that there are no mistakes, or spending much longer on your work than is necessary in order to ensure that it's of such a high standard that no one could question you about it. Essentially, it's a manifestation of anxiousness. But something which ADHDers might not actually fully acknowledge or recognize is that neurotypical people can also make mistakes, and also may not be bothered to get their work to necessarily the highest standard that it could be. And the pressure which an ADHDer puts on themselves in order to be perfect may be unnecessary, because other people's work may not actually be that good. Okay, so what is my number one piece of advice to an ADHD who struggles with perfectionism? So my one piece of advice would be to lower the pressure, and the way that we're going to do that is by, instead of aiming for perfect, we are going to aim for rubbish. I am not kidding you. We have to aim to complete the task, but to complete it rubbishly. Because often better is a task completed rubbishly than a task completed perfectly. Why do I say this? It's because after you've completed the task, then you can do the fine tuning if needed. But what ADHDers often struggle with is completing the task in the first place. So lower the pressure. Don't worry about the perfectionism, and don't worry about doing it to the most amazing avidity, because you know that if you aim for that, it's very likely that this task is going to be extremely painful. You know, better for your first draft to be done, and then for the editor, that will be you, to go in and make it better, than for the first draft never to be done. Now, before you say, Ruse, that is easy for you to say, let me tell you, I am doing that right now. I have just spent weeks, if not going into months trying to research a video for this channel and to write out or to record out a script, and then I would go through that script and I meant to edit that script, and guess what? I just didn't finish it. So I spoke to my accountability buddy, and I am very privileged to have an accountability buddy, although I haven't always had one. I spoke to her and I said, instead of trying to complete this one video perfectly and it taking ages and ages and ages to do, I'm going to set myself the challenge of doing 5 videos rubbishly, and that includes this video as the first video in the challenge, and just setting myself 1 to 2 weeks to complete the task. And that's what I'm doing now. So this is a technique that I would suggest to you to overcome your perfectionism and to curb the ADHD paralysis that is surrounding that. I also want to reassure you and reinforce the idea that the majority of people probably are not perfectionists. A decent or good standard of work usually is fine, and people don't always notice the tiny details that you notice. So better is work that is done to a good standard, a decent standard, than work that is not done because you're so worried about it being perfect. And that is what I'm also going to demonstrate by completing the next videos within this 5 video challenge. So click for the next video.